Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily. A tense courtroom moment when defendant Alex Jones has an outburst while on the stand.
I don't apologize for it.
And don't apologize, Mr. Jones. Please don't apologize.
No, I've already apologized to the parents over and over again.
We know
I don't apologize to you.
Objection.
Don't apologize to you.
And outside the courtroom, Jones speaks to the media about his testimony.
Am I afraid that statements I say here may be used against me inside? No, I'm telling the truth here.
Plus,
we will not tolerate the gun violence in this city, and we ask the community to be patient and support us.
officials give an impassioned plea to the Baton Rouge community of Louisiana following the murder of LSU student Allison Rice. And later, after a jury rules in favor of his accuser, comedian Bill Cosby says he has a right to a new trial. Law&Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm your host, Brian Buckmeyer. Right-winged radio host Alex Jones gives explosive testimony as he butts heads with the plaintiff's attorney in the Sandy Hook defamation trial. Last month, the Texas jury ordered Jones to pay $49.3 million in damages to the parents of Jesse Lewis, a student who was shot and killed in the 2012 massacre. Jones now faces trial in Connecticut, as 15 plaintiffs filed a total of 3 lawsuits against him after he claimed that the school shooting was a hoax put on by crisis actors. The plaintiffs, made up of family members of the students killed and an FBI agent, say Jones's followers have harassed them and even made death threats. Jones has already been found liable for damages in this case, meaning jurors will now decide how much Jones should pay. As part of the plaintiff's case, Jones was called to the stand on Thursday. Things got heated when Jones told plaintiff's attorney Chris Maddie that he was done apologizing. This after Maddie suggested Jones put targets on the backs of Sandy Hook parents.
She said that she loved me, and I gave her a kiss and I was out the door.
That's Robbie Parker, isn't it, Mr. Jones?
It is.
That's the real Robbie Parker, isn't it?
I mean, I said years ago I thought Sandy Hook had him.
Robbie Parker's sitting right here. He's real, isn't he?
Yes.
And for years, you put a target on his back, didn't you?
Objection to the form of that, Judge.
Well, I mean,
Didn't you?
I've said his name. It's true. I haven't said other people's names when we know who they are.
You put a target on his back just like you did every single parent and loved one sitting here, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
That's argumentative. It's speculative. There is no foundation for it, and it's inappropriate.
Let's move on.
These are real people. You know that,
Objection,
Mr.
Judge.
Jones?
I think you just told them to move on.
Just like all the Iraqis, but you liberals kill and love. It's just, you're unbelievable. You switch on emotions on and off when you want. It's just ambulance chasing.
Why don't you show a little respect? Mr.
Objection, Judge. I think that you get what you give in this court. Objection.
You have families in this courtroom here that lost children, sisters, wives, moms.
Is this a struggle session? Are we in China? I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry. I didn't progenerate this. I wasn't the first person to say it. American gun owners didn't like being blamed for this, as the left did, so we rejected it mentally and said it must not be true. But I legitimately thought it might have been staged, and I stand by that, and I don't apologize for it.
And don't apologize, Mr. Jones. Please don't apologize.
No, I've already apologized to the parents over and over again.
We know
I don't apologize to you.
Objection.
Don't apologize to you.
You're going to do it again.
Objection, Judge.
Aren't you?
Objection.
No, I'm
Objection.
I
Argumentative.
don't apologize to you.
Well, it's hard for me to get a word in edgewise.
It is, but I
Because
think
your
there's
client
one
is-
officer of the court and one witness, and
So
an officer of the
why
court
don't
heard
we
the
move
objection.
on, and I can't rule on your attorney's, excuse me,
I'm sorry. Screaming at me. Come.
I can't rule on your attorney's objection.
Understand.
Keep talking, and he may have legitimate.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
Joining us today is legal analyst Dina Dahl and co-host Terry Austin. Dina, I don't necessarily respect it. I don't respect it at all, but I understand why Jones feels he's done apologizing. But is that the smartest move to make when a jury's deciding how much he'll have to pay to these families?
No. I mean, an apology, or if you're sorry, isn't an element of the law here, right? But he's already been found liable, as you say, and it goes to damages. Compensatory damages, how much do the families actually lose as a result of his lies? That is not going to be relevant. But there's a punitive issue here, and this is what makes the case the most interesting, because the punitive under the Connecticut Unfair Trade Practices Act is not capped. so they can have a very high award here. And one of the things you look at when awarding punitive damages is how malicious was the act. So his demeanor and his saying there, clearly he doesn't really care how he affected the families. That can tie into the maliciousness of how they think the acts were and may lead to a high punitive award.
Now, Terry, was the testimony on direct truly helpful to Alex Jones? Because he seems to think so, or did it hurt him?
Listen, Brian, if there was any testimony that helped Alex Jones, I did not hear it. First of all, from a substantive standpoint, everything he said was offensive. He talked about liberals in Iraq and China, and I do think that obviously all of that is irrelevant, but it's also inflammatory. And it could offend the parents and it could offend that jury, which is something he should be concerned about. And furthermore, Brian, his attitude, it's disrespectful, it's condescending. He continues to ignore the judge. The judge has asked him over and over to wait for her ruling when there's an objection, and he refuses to do that.
We'll see how this plays out. We've got a little bit more coming up, though. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, our coverage continues of the Alex Jones defamation trial out of Connecticut. Jones discusses his testimony with reporters outside the courtroom, why he says there was no need for him to cross-examine. Welcome back. We're taking another look at the Alex Jones defamation trial out of Connecticut. On Friday, defense attorney Norm Pattis waived his right to cross-examine Alex Jones, saying he would call Jones to the stand again later. After this, Jones spoke with the media outside the courthouse about the decision and his argument with attorney Chris Maddie.
In Norm Pattis' words, Chris Maddie crapped the bed. And his legal colleagues all over the state, including Democrats and Republicans, judges, you name it, have chimed in and said, my God, that was the most disgusting thing they'd probably ever seen. He looked like a fool. And in a case they thought they were sure to win, he may have lost the case for him. And I can tell you, Maddie's father, who's a famous lawyer, chewed him out and screamed at him in there yesterday after what he did. I mean, he absolutely got completely out of control, trying to piss me off to get out of control, and I didn't get out of control. And so we're just going to let him throw more fits in there, and then he'll get up there and Josh Koskoff will start crying and then look at the jury and go cry, and try to get a big cry fest going in there because they want to suck money out of people. The good news is I don't have hardly any money, despite what they lie about in the press, okay?
Terry, so as we see it there, while Jones is on the stand at the beginning and now we see him outside speaking to the courthouse, the attorney Maddie argued that what Jones says outside the court has effects on the case. So could interviews like this hurt Jones in his trial?
Oh, I definitely think it could hurt Jones. Listen, this press conference, just like all of the others, are really having an impact on the case. Every single time Jones holds a press conference, we hear the plaintiff's attorney confront him. Now, I will agree with Alan Jones that it really was fireworks. I don't think if I had been the plaintiff's attorney, I would have attacked that hard. But I would ask about the remarks outside of the courtroom. And one of the things Norm Pattis should be telling Alex Jones, don't speak to the press. They can have those words used against you. And most of the time, you don't see clients do that. The general principle is you try your case inside the courtroom and you don't discuss it outside of the courtroom. So I do think it's hurting him. I do think that it's right and fair game to be asked about what he's saying outside, because he's saying some, really outrageous things about the judge, about the case, about the system. So I think he should listen to his attorney or listen to other advice and not have these press conferences.
Dina, was it a smart move for Jones's lawyers to not cross-examine him on Friday and maybe call him back on direct another time when things are less heated?
I agree with Terry. There's like two different courtrooms going on here, right? The public, which he's very eager to talk to, and then inside the courtroom. If he were a typical client, I would say their strategy was to do exactly as you said. Take a breather, let him cool down, let them re-strategize, let him come back on Monday. But I actually think here we know that he is showing clips of the courtroom and calling it a kangaroo court on his show. He's basically making money on this show of how he feels he's being harmed. So I think he may have wanted to delay things because then he has the whole weekend to fundraise off of it. He has a whole nother day in the public to fundraise off of it. So, I think there is, yes, a legal strategy going on, but this might also be, this is part of what he does, and it's a business move as well.
Absolutely. And heading to Ohio, where jurors hear once again from the forensic pathologist who performed the victims' autopsies in the trial of George Wagner IV. George, along with his brother Jacob and their parents Angela and Billy, are all accused of having a part in the execution-style murders of the Roden and Gilly families back in April of 2016. All 8 victims were found shot to death, some in their beds as they slept. Initially, officers thought the murders could be drug-related, but later determined the killings allegedly stemmed from a custody dispute involving a child Jake shared with Hannah Roden. Jurors are hearing about the murders one scene at a time. Thursday and Friday's testimony focused on the trailer where Dana and her 2 children, Hannah Mae and Chris Roden Jr., were killed. The former investigator who processed the crime scene told jurors once again that no items from the home contained DNA of any of the defendants. The coroner then took the stand, testifying in detail about the gunshot paths in Dana's head.
Can you tell us where was gunshot wound number 1 located?
On the diagram, number 1 is on the far left. It looks like it's on the right forehead. It's a little more on the side of the forehead.
Doctor, can you tell us what did you determine the distance to be of that gunshot wound?
That is intermediate.
Okay. And why do you make that determination?
Very faintly on the picture. I think there is a different picture. There are faint red stippling marks from gunshot powder striking her skin.
And were you able to determine the path that gunshot wound took?
Yes.
And what was that?
It traveled across, following a relatively straight path to the left side of her head, struck the bone on the left side of her head, but did not exit, and then fell inside her skull to underneath her brain.
Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, Bill Cosby's defense team calls for a new trial, saying his accuser changed the timeline of her story. Plus, a Louisiana State University student murdered in Baton Rouge. Why investigators say misinformation has been spread in the death of Allie Rice. Welcome back. Authorities in Baton Rouge, Louisiana are taking steps to ensure the community's safety following the random killing of LSU student Allison Rice. As a memorial to the 21-year-old grows, officials are investigating what led to her murder. Rice was shot and killed in the early morning hours last Friday in her SUV while waiting at a railroad crossing for a train to pass. Police say she was driving home after a night out with friends. They say the shooter fired into her car at least 5 or 6 times. Hundreds attended the funeral, which was open to the public, as Rice was laid to rest Wednesday. A day later, officials addressed ongoing violence in the city of Baton Rouge at a press conference. They talked about issues of misinformation going around about the Allie Rice investigation, including dismissing rumors that the killing was some kind of gang initiation. Police Chief Murphy Paul also answered questions from reporters, expressing a heartfelt plea to the community.
I know you guys are saying really tight lips about this Allie Rice case, but what can you tell the public? Like, where are you guys in the case? Like, is this going to be solved? What's going on?
What I can tell you is that our detectives are exhausting every investigative lead. They're exhausting every investigative effort. They're working hard. We get briefed on this. I promise you, our detectives are working hard. What I ask this community to do is please lift the family up in prayer. To hear the father's cries when you talk to them. The family is in pain, they're hurting, they're mourning. I'm asking you to be respectful of that specifically.
It seems that we have more questions than answers so far. Does what we know so far seem like it would lead to a suspect, or are we looking for the police to have someone come forward and get more facts?
You know what, Brian, this is going to be a very difficult case. I think both of those things. I think they're going to talk to everyone and see if they can get leads. So they're asking people to come forward. But they're also going to have to do that real legwork. Go out to the scene, look at those bullets. What kind of gun was it? Talk to every witness who saw her prior to this event. It really is going to take a holistic approach, because right now that suspect is still out there and they don't want to have that continue for long. They're looking to make sure that that community is safe. And so hopefully they'll ultimately get something. Maybe even a reward would help.
Absolutely. I think there may be a reward out there for more information. Dina, I know the police don't want us to speculate or give too much information in terms of the investigation, but where's the balance to keep the public informed, the family's privacy protected, and seek justice?
I think that this kind of a case is going to get a lot of public interest. It's random. It was a young girl, really not obvious as to the motive. And so if the police feel that there's too much misinformation out there, they need to give more press conferences. They need to give out more information, because the public really has a right to know what's going on here. And I think the mayor's statement also kind of confused people, because she said that the same group of people are committing violence again and again. And I think that's kind of where that theory of gang violence may have come from. So maybe also coordinating among themselves what kind of information statements they want to put out.
Absolutely. And police in North Carolina released dramatic surveillance video from an armed robbery at a fast food restaurant. Take a look. This video, posted to the Gastonia Police Department Facebook page, shows the armed suspect pointing a gun at several employees during the robbery at the BoJangles fast food restaurant. You can see the suspect following the employees into a backroom area, where police say the suspect threatened the employees and demanded they open the safe. Police say the suspect stole an undisclosed amount of cash. Officials also released footage of the getaway vehicle, which they described as a light-colored minivan. It is unclear if anyone was hurt in the robbery. When we come back, could Bill Cosby be headed back to the courtroom? Why attorneys for the disgraced comedian say he deserves a new trial after jurors ruled in favor of a sexual assault accuser. Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. The Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial will soon enter its next phase, the state's rebuttal, following the defense suddenly resting its case early. On Tuesday, the trial's focus will shift back to the crime itself, to what happened on February 14th of 2018, when a then 19-year-old gunman entered Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and killed 17 students and staff and injured 17 others. It is a jury's job now to determine if the shooter will be given life in prison or the death penalty. In its rebuttal, the state will answer to the points brought up throughout the defense's case. That will include their expert testimony, attempting to minimize expert testimony from the defense's witnesses. Once the rebuttal case is finished, the case will move on to closing arguments, which are set for October 10th. Switching coasts now, as disgraced comedian Bill Cosby says he deserves a new trial, months after a California jury found him liable in a sexual assault case from the 1970s. Now in her 60s, accuser Judy Huth claims Cosby sexually assaulted her at the Playboy Mansion when she was 16 years old. In June, a jury awarded Huth $500,000 in damages in relation to the case. Huth's civil suit was the first against Cosby to make it to trial. It came just 1 year after Cosby was released from prison, when his criminal conviction for the sexual assault of a different woman was overturned. Now Cosby's attorney says he deserves a new trial, arguing that he wasn't given the chance to interview witnesses that could corroborate his defense. Cosby teams also says Huth's changing story could warrant a new trial. They say she first said the sexual assault happened in 1974, but later changed her story, saying it really happened in 1975. Dina, whether it happened in 1974 or 1975, either way, it's nearly 50 years ago. Could a mix-up like that really warrant a new trial?
No, the standard for a new trial is pretty high. I mean, I think he's going to lose this motion. He could still bring these motions on a motion to appeal and maybe more successful there. But the thing is he actually tried to attack the credibility of the plaintiff with the differing years. So he also benefited from her changing the story, and then him not liking the other person talking about a similar accusation. He's saying that's propensity, which is not allowed. The judge clearly saying it goes to intent. I think he loses this motion.
Yeah, the jury got to consider it. It goes to the weight, not the admissibility type of argument. Terry, at this point, why would Cosby want a new civil trial? What could he have to gain?
Listen, he is trying very hard to get his reputation back. Remember, as you said in the lead up to this, he was America's dad. There's no question about it. In the Cosby Show, he portrayed a wealthy family who was raising his children with his wife who was a doctor, and then even before that, he was a comedian. And he was known as being a comedian who was clean cut and funny. So he definitely wants his reputation back. And now that he is out of jail for that criminal conviction as far as Andrea Constand was concerned, he wants to get back his reputation on the civil side too.
Yeah, it might be difficult to do whether or not he wins the civil case, but we'll keep eyes on it. Dina, Terry, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.